Thank you, Auntie. Next, we're going to the main message. Before we go into the main message, let me have to introduce the speaker. Tonight's speaker is very personal to me. I promised her I won't cry. We are blessed to have one of our own speaking tonight. Just like yesterday, we had Sherry with us. It's a proud moment for everybody to see our grandkids come up and speak from the Word of God. Samantha Sam was born and brought up in the Philadelphia Marthoma Church. She's the daughter of Deepa Sam and Sam Varghese, and the proud older sister of 4 siblings and 10 younger cousins. An active participant in the church youth fellowship, she currently serves as a Bible study leader and has also represented the church on the India mission trip. Samantha is passionate about service and seeks out opportunities to support her community. Professionally, she is 2 years out her undergrad degree in engineering and now serves as a clinical trial manager leading a women's health medical device study focused on improving hysterectomy procedure. She's someone many of us have watched grow up, acing in the talent competitions all throughout 10 years, not only in age, but in testimony and commitment to the gospel. Brings a fresh perspective, a sincere heart, and a willingness to serve that inspires all of us. We are grateful she accepted the invitation to speak today, and we look forward to the message based on our theme, Women Proclaimers and Practitioners of Change. Please join me in welcoming Samantha. Samantha, welcome.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that great introduction. When you said you don't want me to make you cry, so that is exactly my mission. Stay tuned for seeing her cry later. Let me share my screen. I have a small slide deck to accompany my presentation for tonight. Can Achin or somebody enable participant sharing? Did you hear me?
I heard you, but have you sent a request or do you have to send a request?
Yeah, I just hit ho when I hit share screen, it just says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Achin, can you check? I don't get any message here.
अच्छा म्यूट लो
Message കിട്ടിയില്ലല്ലോ Samantha. I didn't get the message.
Only have to enable participant sharing.
Participant sharing. I didn't get that.
Can you share it now, Samantha? I just hit.
One second.
Yes, I can. It's
Yeah.
working.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Um,
Samantha, okay.
yeah, sorry. I have two
Yeah.
screens.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah. It's okay.
figuring myself. Give me one sec. Okay. Sure. Okay, thank you. Sorry for technical delays. Thank you everybody for joining and for tuning in to my message. For your entertainment, I'm going to embarrass myself before I start. This next slide. Oh, see if I can transition. So, uh, okay, so this next slide, this is a picture of me after Munyamami, that's Deepa Stanley, the Sevika Sanghom secretary. I call her Munyamami. When she approached me and she called me and she said, "Hey, can you give a message?" And this was my reaction. I immediately said, "No, I don't think I want to do this." And then this picture came to mind, and I want to show the second half of this picture. This is a very endearing picture of her when she was helping me out and comforting me and how much she's been there for me. So I thought to myself, all right, I got to help her out back. So that's how she wrote me in to doing this tonight. So thank you, Munima, for giving me this opportunity. I'll get into my actual message now. Okay, before I go in, I wanted to briefly go over the agenda, just whatever I'm going to be covering tonight. So I thought about the theme, and instead of approaching this with a Bible verse, I was really inspired by the theme women proclaimers and practitioners of change. So I'm not focusing on one verse. I'm going to focus on characters, female change makers, and overall a conceptual theme to talk about women proclaimers and practitioners of change. So the first slide is going to be proclaimers in the Bible, females. The second, I'm going to talk about practitioners of change throughout history. Third, I'm going to talk about science and God's design. And lastly, I'm going to have some closing thoughts. Sorry. Okay. And just to make sure that everybody's awake and I haven't lost anybody, I wanted to start out with a quick trivia. And I know most of the women on here are very good at Bible and know a lot of knowledge and have a lot of knowledge. So anybody can shout it out. Does anybody know the name of Noah's wife? I had to really think about a very challenging question, and I would be surprised if anybody does know the name of Noah's wife.
Mrs. Noah.
That's what I already said.
No, it was good. Mrs. Noah. Any other guesses? Thank you, Charlene.
Zipporah.
No, it's not her. This one's hard. That was a good guess, though.
Noah?
Okay, I'm going to tell you, my mom just told me about this actually. Her name was Emzara. My parents recently visited the Ark in Kentucky, and she found out that the name was Emzara, but this is not actually in the Bible. They found the name through Jewish texts that have been removed from the Bible. So Noah's wife's name was Emzara. That's a fun fact for everybody that didn't know before. I'm going to do the second question is very easy since I was pretty hard on you for the first one. Where was Rahab from?
Moab?
Or what city did she help topple?
Jericho.
Yes, thank you, Lalianty. Yes, it was Jericho. Okay. Thank you for participating in my fun little trivia now that I know everybody's awake. My last fun trivia question that's not here is nobody needs to answer, but with everybody on this call, how many of you are multitasking right now, whether that is cooking dinner or checking email or watching kids or thinking about what you're going to do for the week or figuring out all the things that you have on your mind? I'm sure that many of you are, because women are always wearing many hats, and God has used that capacity to shape history. Go to the next slide. So I want to start off by talking about women in the Bible, women proclaimers in the Bible. And there's many examples of this, but I'm going to bring out three characters that I want to talk to you about tonight. And that's Deborah, Mary Magdalene, and Esther. And we all know the story, so I'm going to keep my explanation about them brief. But Deborah, she was a judge and a prophet and leader in a male-dominated time. She proclaimed God's word, and it led Israel to victory. She was also a prophetess, meaning she received divine revelations from the Lord. Just to put it into perspective, Moses and Samuel were also prophets and judges. So Deborah was on the same rank as people like Moses and Samuel. I definitely forget that. I don't conceptualize how high Deborah was in rank. And as a prophetess, she was elevated in society because she was a judge, but she also was communicating directly with the Lord. Prophets at that time had a very special role in society because they had direct contact with God. And in her time, her responsibilities were similar to a judge you might see today. She oversaw legal disputes. She was a wise advisor. She was a mediator. She had military duties, and she was a public servant. And during the Israelites' subjugation to Sisera, Deborah spoke out and riled up all the military commanders and was able to lead them to victory against Sisera. Mary Magdalene, everybody knows her. She was the first one to witness the resurrection. She was at Jesus's tomb when the tombstone was rolled away, and she was responsible for being the first person, and she was the woman to witness this and bring this information back to the community. And Esther, she was a Jewish orphan who became the queen of Persia to King Ahasuerus. Her cousin, Mordecai, he learned of a plot by the king's wicked advisor, Haman, to kill the Jews. And Mordecai urged Esther to inform the king, and she had to risk her life and enter the king's presence without being summoned to save the Jewish people. And she did. So that's the quick rundown on all these characters. And I want to talk about what they all have in common. So, one, none of these women were passive. All of them acted. Their faith, their courage, and their proclamation brought transformation. All of them were given a choice. Deborah, she received a message from God. God told her, go and command the Israelite army to move forward, even though the opposing army has larger numbers, better equipment. And Deborah could have chosen to pretend like she didn't get that message or didn't hear that because she was fearful, but she didn't. She acted. Mary Magdalene, Sherry Chichi talked about this last night. She explained how in that time, women were second in society. So they could not bear witness in court. Their testimonies were not considered credible. What they said was not considered legitimate. So Mary Magdalene, she's seeing an incredible, never before seen thing. Somebody has risen from the dead. She's the first person to see that. And now it's on her to go and tell other people that God has risen from the dead, but she's a woman. So who's going to believe her? She could have thought to herself, they're going to think I'm crazy. Why would they listen to me saying already a crazy message? And secondly, it's from a woman. And yet in that moment, she disregarded all of that and she still spoke out. And Esther, she had a choice whether or not she wanted to risk her life to go talk to the king. In that time, women, queens did not have that kind of position or power. She was not allowed to just walk into the king's presence. She had to request that, but she didn't. She went in, she had courage, and that's all she had. And she did talk to the king, and through that, her people were spared. So all of these women, again, they were not passive, they acted. Their faith, their courage is what brought transformation. Secondly, when we think of great biblical heroes, we often picture big, dramatic acts, right? Killing the giant, building an ark, parting the Red Sea. But when I look at the scripture and I look at women, I see something very different, right? All of these women did something very incredible. But Mary Magdalene, she did not kill a giant. She spread the news of the resurrection. Esther, she did not build an ark. She had a conversation with the king. And Mary Magdalene, she didn't part the Red Sea. She just told others about what she saw. What did all these women use? Their voice, their presence, their courage to help the outside world. If you look at it from the perspective of other great things that you hear about in the Bible, miracles, fire raining down from heaven, huge displays of God's power and excellence, these actions in comparison look very small, very inconsequential, right? None of them did anything crazy. Most of them just used the power of communication. They just went and had a conversation or discussion with somebody. But God, he multiplied that into something very powerful. Now, I thought about this for the context of everybody that's listening to this message now. And I thought about how oftentimes we look at the works that we do and our lives and wonder, how is this making an impact? We often don't even consider these small, inconsequential acts that we are doing, right? Every single one of you, every time you gather your family and you encourage evening prayer, you are doing the same thing these women did. Every time there is a fight in the family or you have an argument, and the only way to solve or, still your mind through that is you go to the side and you have a conversation with God, you are doing the same thing that these women did. When you send a WhatsApp group to go and have, a group prayer for somebody sick, when you decide to visit a neighbor in need, none of these are really big or dramatic acts. You might not be raising hundreds and thousands of dollars to save somebody overseas or, leading a large campaign, but all of these small things that seem like they don't matter and they don't have a profound impact, they do, because God shows us in the Bible that all of these women who transformed the fate of the people that they were helping or transformed the fate of the Israelites in these situations, they didn't have to do anything massive. They used what they had, and God met them where they were at so that they could use what they had. But those smaller things resulted in a very powerful outcome. And similarly, our small and maybe inconsequential acts will result in something powerful, whether we can see it or not. So the second slide I want to transition into is change makers throughout history. So throughout history, like the three women that I just spoke about in the Bible, we women have continued to change the world. And like I said, it's not often with these big dramatic gestures, but it's usually with persistence, courage, and showing up, forcing ourselves into spaces where they don't always belong. So I wanted to talk about this example. I don't know if everybody recognizes who this is, but the woman on the left, that is not the Parle G baby all grown up, if anybody knows what that is. That is Indira Nui. She is,
Coca-Cola.
yes, she is. She was the CEO of PepsiCo. She was one of the first women and an immigrant and a woman of color to lead a Fortune 50, not 500, a Fortune 50 company. She transformed their mission towards performance with purpose. She made the company healthier, and she served from CEO from 2006 to 2019. So she had a really long tenure at Pepsi, and she was there previously in other positions. But under her leadership, Pepsi achieved many things and continued to dominate as a huge global company. As I was researching for this message, I came across an anecdote that she shared. And you can imagine, for somebody to become a CEO, she worked very hard. She went to many prestigious schools and had a lot of accolades and great degrees and put in lots of time and effort. And with pride, when she came home and she told her mom, I'm the CEO. I just got the CEO of Pepsi. Her mom responded to her, "That's nice. Now go get the milk." So I read that, and of course I laughed. I was, puzzled. And I thought to myself, a woman can change the world. Even when a woman changes the world, she did something that no other woman has probably done before. There is still a box that we are put in. We are still questioned. We still have expectations on us and judgment cast on us that doubt our credibility, whether we have qualifications. And again, this is not a question you would ever expect a man to receive after becoming the CEO. Their families would not ask them to come home and run the house, or why aren't you being present in the home? And so within her own household, the magnitude of Indira's position outside did not seem important. But women continue to redefine what leadership looks like. I see that as God using an advantage that women can influence from many, many locations, right? When I talked about the women in the Bible and in that time, these were not spaces that women were allowed in. So we have gone from kitchens to bedrooms to our homes where we influence our children, our husbands, our sisters, brothers, to boardrooms, conference room, classrooms, places that we are typically, we once did not hold positions in, but God has allowed us to occupy these other spaces and to live out his purpose with the same calling. So I bring up her example because no matter the pressure or judgments we face, God has sanctioned us for greatness. Otherwise, we would not be there. As a woman, we constantly redefine what a leadership role looks like. We have leadership in our homes, we have leadership in our careers, we have leadership in our church groups, even in small ways, inconspicuous ways that we don't recognize. God has sanctioned us there. And our influence really comes not from fitting in society's box, but faithfully living out God's purpose for us. Okay. I'm going to transition to my one of my last slides. And I always love when I take part in a speech or a presentation where I get to learn something new, something I haven't heard before. So I'm going to share something about menopause. Ooh, scary word. I think everybody here is very familiar with that. And it's often seen as something negative, I think. You know, it's a time of a lot of transformation, change, maybe unwanted, maybe difficult to deal with. But I recently learned about a different perspective, and this is a hypothesis. This is not hard science, but something that I thought was really interesting, and I would like to share with you all. So women can produce life. That is an unbelievable power in itself, right? That is what is more powerful than being able to recreate life. On top of that, women experience menopause. We are only one of 3 species on Earth that experience menopause. In these species, females live long past their reproductive years. In fact, for the last quarter of their lives, they step into this role as grandmothers. And when you think about it, if you're looking at it from a purely scientific perspective, there is no reason to create a grandmother. You are taking away her childbirthing potential. So there is no need from a biological perspective to create a grandmother unless females can offer something that transcends the ability to bear children. Biology has favored women who can no longer reproduce because they must serve a more vital role in society. Otherwise, wouldn't females die right after they go through menopause? Because why would they what role would they serve? So what could be the biological purpose? What could be more crucial, more powerful than creating life itself? So powerful that women are taken offline and they can no longer bear children for the last part of their lives. The answer is wisdom, education, and knowledge. Our species relies on information for survival. The way that information is passed down is through educators, through teachers. By the time a woman reaches her mid-40s, she has lived, she has seen, and she has endured and learned. If you really think about it from, let's go back for a little bit in human civilization to the hunter-gatherer time. If a woman is still alive by her 40s, that means she has definitely overcome childbirth. She has overcome infection, disease, illness, civil conflict, civil disputes, geographical changes, probably migration, changes related to the weather. She has basically gone through a lot, so much that that information she now has is incredibly valuable to protect her offspring. And again, in earlier centuries, now that we have modern medicine, this may be a little bit less true, but childbirth was incredibly dangerous. Every time a woman is having a child, she puts her life at risk, especially as you get older. So by taking women offline, nature is protecting their lives, preserving their wisdom, and allowing them to pass that on to their children and their community. So in a very real sense, God has designed grandmothers. Menopause ensures that women remain here, not just to produce children, but to guide, to teach, and to sustain life. It grants them about 25 or more years devoted to legacy, years when their wisdom is so valuable, it outweighs the biological drive to reproduce. And note that men do not have this design. So God has determined that a woman's presence, a woman's wisdom, and her ability to pass that knowledge is more valuable for human survival than her male counterparts. So you put all of this together, and I attribute our biological design to God. I feel like the more you learn about science and the more you learn about the way a body works, you can't deny that God's involvement was so big, how perfectly we're designed, how our eyes work, how our limbs work, how we are put together. So God had an intention for putting women through grandmotherhood, and he has woven our ability to pass our knowledge, to share, to be practitioners of change for the next generation into our design, in our DNA. That's how we're designed. Women are specifically called on to pass on wisdom and faith and resilience so that God's purposes can extend beyond their own lifetime. I think this is incredible, how uniquely women are specifically designed to sustain that life across generations. I think about what knowledge I have from the way my Amachi has taken care of me, my aunts, my mom, all the women in this call, the wisdom and the information that you have shared with me, how it's timeless, and I will keep it with me forever. My mom shares a story with me. The main point that I wanted to make here is that your influence today, it shapes tomorrow. Your words, your faith, your action, they create ripples that you might not be able to see now, but it is there for generations to come. My mom shared a takeaway that she had from the story of Noah. And she says every time she hears the story of Noah, this is what she thinks about. She says, God spared Noah, and by sparing Noah, God saved Noah's wife and Noah's children and his children's wives. We don't know if those children or the wife or anybody else was righteous. We have no idea. But Noah's good acts protected all of them. So for everybody on this call, I think she has said to me, whether my children are wicked or whether my children are good or whatever my family and the rest of my people decide to do, I know I have to pray. I have to pray for them because my prayer might protect their children's children. My suffering, my pleading might give them a shield from God. And God will reward what I have done in my lifetime for my generations to come. So again, your influence, what you are doing now, it is not going to end with you. God rewards, whether you see it in this lifetime or not, God will reward the good works, the faith, the prayers for your children, your parents, their children, your friends. God will reward that. Now, I just want to share some closing thoughts. So, one, women have always been central to God's story of change. Like I discussed about the 3 examples of the women in the Bible, they didn't do any grand or magnanimous act to carry out God's will. God wrote them into his story, met them where they were at, and allowed them to do what they could do to carry out his word. And even if that seemed small, even if that was inconsequential, it was incredibly, incredibly powerful. Second, you are, all of us, proclaimers and practitioners of change. We are called, equipped, and empowered by God. Your influence is multi-generational. What you do today is shaping tomorrow. The conversations you have today, they're influencing whoever you are talking about them with. Whether they are good or bad, they are influencing and shaping tomorrow. I thought to myself when I first was making this message, I don't feel worthy or equipped to stand in front of all these incredibly accomplished, successful, and women who have a lot more knowledge and experience than me. And I had to take that back and understand that God has put me here, and whatever that message is, if somebody can take something from it, even if I don't seem fit and I don't think I'm worthy or ready, God has determined that. And I hope you all know that God has determined that for you as well, that you are practitioners of change, and how you live today will influence tomorrow. And these don't have to be big acts. Your small acts make a huge, huge difference. I'm going to close here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and paying attention to me. I hope you were able to take something away. Thank you, Achin and Wanyamali, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.